in general, the pictures be as big as possible, but you could probably make these a little smaller and maybe even have a few words down here that basically says branches close to the ground and year-round shade, dense year-round shade.
Okay.
Here, more light can come in from the side early in the day and early and late in the day, and in the spring, in the springtime, in the spring and fall, pretty much full sun because the leaves are up the trees. Right. You see, you need the lead-in slide to this, and then you need to kind of point out what's really different here.
Okay.
And given this, your hypothesis was that with the dense cover from coniferous trees creates a more the dense dense year-round. There we go. Year-round. That's probably hyphenated. I don't know. I never know what's a hyphenate. Dense year-round cover from coniferous trees creates a more substantially a substantially different plant community. Fewer species under coniferous trees, different species, and different relative abundance. Okay, good. No, this works. This works great.
Okay.
So, you need to say where this was.
Yep.
You need to say where this was, what park it was, whatever, and also make any picture like this, anything like this, make it. See, plot selection is not. I don't know. So, replace that with location.
Okay.
Right. Location. ... Okay. Now, make this and replace that. Don't have it location. Okay, so I'm going to hit the shift key so I when I resize it, I don't stretch it.
Yeah.
I distort it. Make this picture as big as it can reasonably be.
Okay.
Because you want people to be, if it's worth seeing, you've got to be able to see it well, right? Now, there's, probably don't go right to the edge, and maybe, but the thing is, we're really focused on this area in particular.
Right.
And, okay, now you need to, before you get to this, you need to, you need to have a slide that says, can you enter a new slide, a new blank slide. You can actually, okay, let's get rid of all this. What do you need to have here? Sampled under how many trees?
10 conifers and 10 deciduous trees with 2 plots each.
Spruce trees and 10. Okay, how about this? Sampling. And then here, actually, let's have everything be in the text box so you can position it all exactly the way you want. 10 under okay 10 spruce trees, and I'm going to just do a separate text box, and
that's fine.
10 maple trees. And then, I don't know what the 2
plots
how
each.
big?
1 foot by 1 foot.
1 foot we should really go with metric, so we'd be 30 centimeter by 1 foot plots under each tree. Okay?
Yep.
Under each tree. And then what you did in each of these plots was in each plot determined percent cover for each species present. That is an overview of your experiment.
Okay.
You see?
Yep.
And that's what's missing before, but to see how probably make the font bigger,
Yeah.
make it bold, maybe not, but make it so you can see it on the screen if you're
Yeah.
standing way back in the back corner with bad eyes.
Okay.
Okay? But see, it's pretty simple and straightforward. And you see what I try to avoid anything resembling a full sentence here because it's cumbersome, but this is really kind of very simply outlines it. Now, plot selection. I think plot selection. Okay, so here, random. So 2 random compass the directions under each tree. And maybe have, what you could do actually? Here, I'm just going to be taking a look at your thing here. Okay. Oopsie. Oh, no, just. Oh, is anybody like that?
No,
feature?
no.
I just don't understand what they were thinking. Okay, what is this? Well, how about here? How about we do this? How about we make this a little bit smaller? Big is good, but look what we can do here. I'm trying to move this. Why am I not succeeding in moving it? What is going on here?
No.
I think I'm clicking in the wrong part of the mouse.
I don't think we can move that.
Well, we should be able to move the whole thing. I just did what's over there before.
You want to move? Which way do you want to move?
I want to move it that way.
Oh, this way.
Oh, how about this?
Okay, yeah.
That'll work. Okay. Now, let's copy and paste, and I'm going to move this up. Move this over, and I'll show you where I'm headed with this.
Okay.
And then now let's copy that and then put this paste. Well, we got to orient it.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is each of these would have a different
Okay.
different pattern.
Okay, I understand.
For example, and I don't know, maybe for example is dumb.
No.
And so you got to have them more oriented, right?
Yeah.
But you can copy and paste and put them in, just kind of randomize the just different patterns. So each of them is going to have them in different locations.
Right.
Okay. and then center this better. It's
Yeah.
kind of and we've got overlapping. We've got overlapping, east and west, right?
Yeah.
So something like that,
Yep.
and something like this. Get that over a little farther. You don't want to go right on the edge. Cool.
Yeah.
Isn't
I like
nice?
that. Yeah, that's a better idea.
Okay. Because a picture just you can have so few. If you have a good picture with just a little explanation, it can as I say, a picture is worth 100 words or 1,000 words or whatever. I don't know. Okay. But the words are important here, and this gives people structure and structure, and then basically then you can probably say in words, you took photos of you laid down rulers, took photos, and then on the computer superimposed the grid lines. Right. You could actually duplicate the slide here. Can we duplicate? How do we duplicate a slide? Duplicate. Oh. Okay, look what you could do. Can you? I don't know how this is going to work. Here, I just made a mess there. Undo. You could. That didn't work. You could remove the grid lines.
Oh, okay.
You could remove the grid lines from this.
Yeah.
And then keep everything exactly the same positions, but then you go here and then it just kind of fucking animates and pops in the grid lines.
I don't think it's moving because I grouped them together. That's why.
Yeah.
So I can ungroup them and then just do that. What you said.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Okay. Just makes it more just a little bit more clear. You took pictures with the rulers and then you just superimposed the grid lines.
Right.
And so what happened? Well, I would say that the first thing you want to do is you want to talk about the grass, because the grass is probably, the grass is at the moment, as they say, talk about the giant elephant in the room is the really major conspicuous thing that nobody's talking about. At present, in your presentation, the grass is the giant elephant in the room. So you've got this really big difference.
Right.
So one of the most dramatic things I saw, was that there was a dramatic difference in grass coverage. Under the deciduous trees, it's close to complete coverage by grass, whereas under the spruce trees, it was it was a lot more bare ground. So you could have grass, and then you could say, and another notable thing was that there's a lot because of this, there's a lot more bare ground under the spruce trees. Now there were a bunch of species. You can just say how many species?
We had. Oh, there's 20 now.
There's 20. I found 20 species, but other than the grass, other than the significant difference with the grass and also the significant different amount of bare ground, which is going to be significant. Yeah. You don't have the right data in there yet, right? There were only 3 species that showed significant difference, but in all cases, these were all cases other than the grass. Oh, no, that was in the deciduous one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we found one species here. What is this one?
That's just
number of species.
It's these 2.
Okay, so there's different ways of approaching this. You don't have to have both of those P equals here. You don't have to have both of those. You could just here. You could do that.
Okay.
That will work.
Okay.
And then I would probably put that like right there,
Mhm.
something like that. If you had all the time in the world, I would probably make the box opaque,
Okay.
so that you don't have that line shining through. But whatever,
Mhm.
it's okay. That's fine. That'd be perfectly fine.
Okay.
I might make that a little bit bolder though, just to make it show up more. Okay, so now the question is, how do you tell the story most effectively?
Mhm.
Okay, this is nice. Different species, different marking. So there's more to it than this.
Okay.
I think the story really is that intense competition from grass under the deciduous trees
Mhm.
eliminates or reduces the other species.
Okay.
Outcompete the grass outcompetes other species.
Okay.
I think that's really going to be the story.
Okay. So should I add on to that, or just like delete all of that? The rationale.
I think what you want to do here. Okay, so this is good because you're coming full circle back to your hypothesis and the predictions,
Mhm.
right? But I think I would put a question mark in it.
Okay.
I don't know. Can you do a question mark?
Yeah, I'll try to find it.
Here, let's put a question mark there for now, just to for a question mark. So to speak. Okay. Okay. Here. Here. I'm just going to put a question mark there, and then you can do what you want with that. Just to sort of have, because it's easy to.
We have to shift. Yeah.
It's easy to. You have a lot going on, and it'd be good to just say I have these notes in here for you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is great because this comes back full circle to what your hypotheses were, and then I think what you need to do is have another slide here. Insert blank. I'm just going to type in a little something. You can do more with it.
Yeah.
So, intense competition from grass in the sun, in the under deciduous trees inhibits other species.
Okay.
And actually, what I would do here is, I think what maybe be yes / no question mark.
Okay.
Something like that. Okay, because I think what's going on here is the grass doesn't do well in that intense shade.
Right.
So yes, certain species will be able to survive in particular shade. Yes, but there's more going on because it's not just that the other species can survive there. See, I think all those species underneath the spruce, I think all of those species would prefer to be in the sun, or they would prefer to be.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Yeah, every one of those would prefer. I mean, this is something that's important to talk about here. Every one of those would really be doing better in the sun, or in a situation with more sun.
Right.
I think all of them would probably do best in the sun, actually, but so they would be better. They would do better in the, under the deciduous tree where they get more sun in the spring, almost complete sun in the spring, and where early and late in the day they get direct sun coming in from under the, underneath the high branches, right? But this is a matter of the community structures being really, really influenced by the presence of an intense competitor. This is a little bit analogous to the whole business about the intertidal zone, where I mean, the factors are different. Here we have a predator versus here we have shade, different shade conditions.
Right.
But in a situation where the mussels can dominate the whole situation, it can really, you know, cover the rocks where they're not kind of being kept in check. They reduce the overall diversity of the habitat, right, of the community, the community, because of intense competition. But if the predator, when the sea stars are present, reducing the abundance of the mussels, now there's more bare rock surface that can be colonized by other species. This is the same story, except that it's not predation or herbivory, whatever, keeping the grass out from underneath the spruce trees. At least we don't think it is.
Right.
But it's the intense shade that's keeping them out. I think you ought to make that connection here, actually. Okay. You see, isn't this cool?
Yeah.
This is lovely. And actually, this presentation, this is, and so then I think what I would do here is move this down. Just thinking about how the sequence of telling a story. Let's see. I'm really not doing very well on the computer. I think I would move it down, and so the end oh, okay. So you have a graph for number of species. You have a graph. Okay. In the end result is that the end result here is that the combination of the physical factors affecting the grass, combined with the intense competitiveness of the grass when it's abundant, is creating essentially two different plant communities. Where, again, you've got to get grass in here. Oh, you know what? If you put grass in here, what's going to happen is all that detail. You know what I think you need to do? Is I think you need to put grass in here, right? Yep. Which is going to be over here, right? I mean, you put it on the end, right?
I can, yeah.
And when grass is present, here, the scale is going to be crazy high.
Right. Yeah.
This is all going to look like nothing. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So keep this graph.
Okay.
But have before this, have a graph where you have the grass in there.
Okay.
And then you have everything else. Okay.
So there's basically two of these graphs, one with grass and then one without grass.
Yeah. And I mean, if you wanted to get really slick with this, but let's not don't spend a half a day figuring out how to do it.
Okay.
One things you can do is you can like have a broken scale where you basically you have that go up there, and then what sometimes people do is they'll have a scale line, and then they'll have like two little cross hatches or two little diagonal lines, and then the scale continues but in a different range.
Okay.
So you could go from 0 to 4 and then kind of break the scale, and then go from like 70 to 90 or something, like 70 or to 100.
Right.
But that would just you could eat up all the time that you have available for finishing this, just trying to figure out how to do that graph. If you're going to publish this, it might be worth it. Yeah. But you probably won't have the same time deadline. Yeah. So just do it as two different graphs. Okay. Do the graph like this, adding grass in over here, and then say, okay, so you can see that the dramatic difference is a lot of grass versus not much grass here. And so, there is a difference in tolerance. And some species are surviving in the shade and others are in the more intense shade. Right. And others are. But what you can see, if we have the grass there, it compresses all the scale down so that this doesn't look like much of anything here. Yeah. If we take the grass out and just see what's going on other than the grass, you can see that basically we have more or less two distinctly different kinds of communities here.
Right.
We have a grass-dominated community with these small number of other species, and then in the more intense, more continuous shade, where there's more bare ground, you got to emphasize that the bare ground is the thing, right? Now we have a lot more species.
Okay.
This story here is the same story that we oftentimes see when people look at, for example, the really trampled areas in Murfreesboro Park versus the not so trampled areas. In fact, Austin is going to be Einert, I don't know, but anyway, Austin. He sits behind you usually in class, kind of behind you. Because you sit off on the left from my perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see these guys sit real back. Anyway, he's looking at trampled versus untrampled areas in Murfreesboro Park, and I think he's going to have the same basic story.
Okay.
But there, it's because the grass is less tolerant to extreme trampling.
Right.
But the extreme trampling creates all this bare ground that allows certain very tolerant species, very trampling tolerant species, to get established and persist. But they can't, in general, they can't compete very well with the grass if the grass is growing really well. Cool?
Yeah.
Your grass in this case is the equivalent of the mussels in the Rocky Tidal Zone.
Yeah. That's
Cool.
cool.
And how many people looking at these places, like looking at that park, or looking at Murfreesboro Park, are seeing this drama that's playing out? And from the perspective of these plants, this is life or death stuff,
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, I think you're in great shape. You have some things to fix.
Yeah. It's not too hard though.
I
not
think
hard at all. So I know
no,
what to
I
do.
think in the order. What order did we say that maybe we do start out talking about more species, and then interestingly, more species, and then the grass, and then you go to. So there's a lot. You should say a lot of these species though only occurred a few times, and so comparing the coniferous to the deciduous, there really was no ability to see whether there was any significance for most of them. So I'm going to just show you the ones that were very significant, that were statistically significant, and start with the grass, and maybe you could go to the bare ground and say, interestingly, because in the places where there was a lot more grass, because the bare ground is going to be almost nothing.
Yeah, right.
Once you're done, I'm just getting confused by looking at this. Interestingly, because the grass was so abundant, there was almost no bare ground, whereas underneath the conifers, there's a lot more. Now, where do we say that? Where do we bring this in, though? I'm not sure this is the place to bring the bare ground in.
Okay.
I think the grass is really abundant, but then there's 10 different people might tell the story in a different way. This is going to be the same story. So, more species. The most, then in terms of abundance, I'm just thinking of telling the story. In terms of abundance, what we find is that one species was dramatically, there was a dramatic difference in abundance between the two habitats. Several other species showed differences in abundance as well. maybe this graph should be used here. Maybe maybe you should have. I don't know what it's going to look like,
Right.
but I mean, if the grass is up there at like 90%, if that was like 90% up there, and then 4% would be everything would be right down here. Just have to see what it looks like. Can we easily get into this graph and just put in an extra thing and just we're gonna put in fake put in a fake number. No, so put in another thing. Maybe copy and paste this so that you make a new one, so you don't mess that one up. Okay, and why don't you put in a new one here and say fake grass data. And then why don't we have, what do you think it's going to be? 5% maybe in the color group. And maybe we say 90%. I don't know. Okay, so put in 90 here. And then do another version of the grass. I just want to see what it looks like. Yeah. Look, can we make that bigger? Okay.
Well, for the percentage, are we dividing by 20 because of the 20 species?
No, this is percent of the ground covered.
Okay, but this was average. This graph is average percent.
But this is average percent covered.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're dividing.
So we would divide by 20.
But that's what. But that's what you did here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but 90. But on average, I would imagine
It
that
made 90. Okay.
roughly.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Okay.
This is a dramatic graph.
Yeah.
And we want to make this as tall. And again, those numbers are not right.
Right.
You've got to remember, but you want to make it as tall as possible.
Okay.
I think that graph should, and that right there is not real useful. It's too small. It needs to be, well, maybe you have it fixed down here. Sorry. Yeah, that needs to be, well, actually, let me see how it looks in the PowerPoint. Where's your PowerPoint? I would make this bigger, more conspicuous. I mean, and there's no, okay, and another thing here, don't have it down here because it's taking up space. If you don't have it there, if you pop it up here, for one thing, it's more right where you want to see it.
Okay.
The other thing is, then you can make this taller and then you can see the differences in height more.
Okay.
You can stretch your,
Yeah.
don't stretch it in PowerPoint,
Right.
stretch it in its,
Right.
well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe PowerPoint will do it right, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you can make it proportionally taller and then you have more, and that's going to be particularly important with the other thing. Okay, I think, so you're going to go through, what was this here? Okay, so you're going to have your grass. So the most dramatic pattern is that we have a lot of grass underneath deciduous trees and hardly any into the conifers. There are several other species that show some patterns. Okay, bare ground later. Bare ground later.
Okay.
So other species show differences. Dandelions are more abundant in the conifers. White clover, and there's only one other species that's more abundant in the sun. So these are the ones that have significant p-values.
Yep.
But so let's put in. Why don't you put in that graph we just did right here?
Okay.
I guess not going to be the
The fake.
Yeah, just make a slide here. Get the right numbers into it. Okay, So just to remind you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and what we see here, you might notice that on the grass slide, you might kind of scroll back or something and say in the grass slide, the percent cover range was really considerable. You know, it was. You know, if you choose the scale here, so it's like 105 or 104 or something like that, it'll probably still give you 20, 40, 60, 80, 100.
Okay.
But then you won't have that odd looking 120 at the end.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it'll just cut it off right here. But anyway, where are we here? But so basically, okay, so we have, you know, dandelion is more abundant under the conifers. White clover is more abundant under the conifers. Only one species was, other than grass, was more abundant under the deciduous trees, which was slender wood sorrel. But if we look at the big picture here, if we bring in even those species that are not statistically significant, what we see is something dramatic. It's a little bit difficult to see what's going on here, but basically, what we see is that under the deciduous trees, this is almost entirely grass with a few other species present, and one species occurs just a little bit over here. But otherwise, in the shade, or not under the shade of spruce trees, this is great big collection of other species, which are mostly not present at all. Mostly not present at all. Yeah, mostly not present at all in the. Mostly not present at all under the deciduous trees, which if they were present, you'd see kind of an orangey bar right there. And there's only one place where that occurs, but it's very difficult to see because it's so rare. So a really significant thing about this is that, okay, so we might think, okay, so I think maybe have we supported our hypothesis and so forth and prediction? So we have this, and we predicted only certain species will able to survive in dark shade under the coniferous trees. And it kind of looks like we sort of have supported this idea. But here's the thing: if we look up these species or know more about these species, we find that every one of these species would do much better with more sunlight. But we only find it here in this situation. What's going on? Well, almost certainly what's going on here is that with the greater amount of sunlight in the under the deciduous tree, we have much more grass or much more intense competition. In almost certainly what's going on is just inhibiting the other species, and so. Bring back that one with the grass in there.
So put it at the end again?
Yeah, put it before this one.
Before that one? Okay.
Right here?
Yep.
And so we have, so this is creating radically different biological communities. Now, in this graph up here, this graph up here, it's difficult to really see what's going on with the other species because the scale is so different for the grass versus everything else. But what we see here, and you got to bring in the bare ground slide.
Right. Okay.
And so what's going on here is this, but then we have all. A big thing is that in the shade or of the conifers, we have a lot of bare ground, and this, even though this is not the ideal place for them to grow, having some bare ground frees them from competition they don't have the competition from grass.
Right.
And so if you take out the grass from the picture and just look at the other species so we can see it more clearly, you can see we have radically different plant communities here versus here. Another thing to bring in here to make connections, to really make this great, making the connections with the story of the mussels. That basically if a superior competitor is able to do all it wants to do, is not kind of held in check by something, it can eliminate other species. In the case of the mussels were normally kept in check by predaceous sea stars. In this case, the superior competitor, the grass, is almost eliminated by its lack of tolerance for the intense shade under Amicus cursus, right? But there's another thing here, that when we talked about niches, remember we talked about fundamental versus realized niches. It was in that same kind of in that same general conversation. Well, this is more the comment that an interesting thing here is that if we were to just look at the distribution of these species and not know anything more, we might think, well, they prefer the shade.
Right.
But in fact, their fundamental niche, what we know from doing research and from talking to me who knows these plants a lot better, is all of these plants would do better with more sun.
Right.
And so their fundamental niche actually includes much sunnier places and that's where they actually do their best. But here, in this situation, competition is reducing the range of the where they can live. So they have this much smaller or more reduced and less optimal realized niche.
Right.
So this is always part of their capabilities, but they normally would be doing their best out in bright sunlight. That's where they would really prefer to be. Just like the barnacles, you could even bring back. I will give you permission to bring back slides from my PowerPoint.
Okay.
So if you want to just kind of bring back to remind people.
Yeah.
Remember, we talked about this. Here we have a case of the fundamental niche. We know from other information is much broader than what we actually see in this situation.
Right.
And you could also bring back the slide, and you could just bring back a whole new slide if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
You could you recall this situation and however you want to do it. But,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, for the bare ground, should I put it after these graphs or before these graphs?
I think the bare ground. I think the bare ground. I think I would put the bare ground. It depends on how you want to tell the story, but I think I might put the bare ground after this because I think you might. What you might do is put it after this.
Okay.
And you say, so this is interesting, but what's going on here? Well, there's something I haven't told you. Now, in general, you don't want to have suspense in scientific presentations. You want to present things as clearly and completely as possible, but you're telling a story. You're always telling a story here,
right?
And in fact, the story. Okay, if I didn't kind of have an idea of what might be happening going into it, this might have been the story that you saw, and then you're saying, well, what's going on? And it's like, those situations. In one situation, had a lot more bare ground than the other. I hadn't thought about that. Let's actually get data on that too. Well, holy cow, there's a lot of bare ground there. You know it from just looking at it, but also numerically, you have the data that says there's a lot more bare ground, or you will have the data that says that. And so, probably what's going on is this story about, the suppression of most of the other plants by the grass. And they can really only survive in these places where there's bare ground when they get established, where they don't have so much competition. So some of this, okay. If I was doing this presentation right this moment, I would be clumsy and fumble with how to tell the story. and you probably will be too at first. That's is why you need to practice.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get things. You see the flow of the story.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think it'll be great.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
it'll take practice.
Yeah.
And maybe some coaching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now I have to work on